Good morning from the bus stop. So as you can see, it's raining again. I'm not thrilled about that, but it is what it is. It's actually supposed to rain all day today, and I'm moving between one accommodation and another, which is especially challenging because that means like check-in is check out is 10 a.m. in the morning, and then check-in isn't until 5 p.m. So I've decided, sorry, there's car noise. What I'm gonna do with my day is I'm gonna go to Eyam, which is a small plague town around here, and kind of do some of the history stuff, walk around the village, and then I'll walk back to Hathersage, which is like a 4-mile walk or something. So it shouldn't be too bad. But then I have to get all my stuff, walk 0.7 miles to the train, take the train to Edale, which is where I'm going, and then I have to walk 1.7 miles to my next accommodation. So, and I have to do that carrying like 40 pounds of all of my stuff. So that's gonna be an adventure. You'll see how it goes. Well, that was super interesting. So apparently this town of Eyam lost 30% of its residents during the bubonic plague, and so there's frightening number of similarities between what they thought they should do and kind of what people superstitiously believed and kind of what's happened with COVID. So that was fascinating. Apparently the town itself is kind of a museum too. You can go to all these different sites that have been largely preserved, or at least to some degree preserved, and kind of see, different things. And so I'm going to do that. I have a little walking little map thing. So I'm going to check some of that stuff out. Apparently part of this cottage is the oldest inhabited building in this village. And I guess it's that part on the left, but who knows? These are the old stocks, apparently, that's been preserved in the town square. So this used to be a market, this little building where people would come and sell butter and produce and things like that. Now it's the little information center for tourists. It's also open, even though it's not staffed, and it's dry. So I'm loving it presently. I'm right across the street from the old town hall. And then if you continue down the road, it makes like a little lollipop hike. Essentially, you go down to the next little village over, which is Stony Middleton. It takes you across some other plague sites. So I'm gonna try to do the walk. The rain is, it's raining, it's not misting. And so I'll see how far I get. I don't know how much we'll be able to film because, water and electronics are not really things that mix really well. But we'll see. Apparently they roast a sheep here once a year. Kind of medieval, even though apparently it only started in 1951 according to that sign on the wall there. But, So apparently this was the first victims of the plague in the village. So the person in the middle, her whole family got it and died, and then the people on the left got it next, and then the people in this cottage got it next, and most of their families died. One thing I'm noticing about this part of the country is that there's a lot of tea rooms here, more so than I've seen in other places. I don't know if it's because the weather does this or if there's some other reason, but it's interesting. Like there's one right here behind me and then there's one over here right in front of me. And this village is like not big. It's like 4 blocks big. So I'm walking to the Riley graves. Riley's not the name of the family. It was the name of the like land area. It's supposed to be only a bit farther. Still raining, as you can tell. And I'm not like in a cloud essentially. So we'll see how much further I get. I'm warming up though because I'm hiking up a hill, so that's great. But this is the view. So here we are, the Riley graves. So story goes that this family who lived outside of Eyam, which is the little village I've been in, they lived in a house somewhere up there. There were 7 people living in the house, and in like a week, 6 of them had died. And unfortunately, the wife and mother, Elizabeth, I think her name is, she had to bury all of them. So this is sort of a memorial, not just to their Hancock family, but to all of the plague victims who essentially like had to start burying their own dead because it was no longer safe to have public funerals because they didn't know what was causing the plague. Well, I made it a little under a mile into this loop walk. I'm just kind of doing the beginning of the lollipop portion, and you're supposed to go like all the way up and around, and it's supposed to be amazing views, but I don't think that's gonna happen. 1, it's really raining, I'm very wet, and 2, there's not a ton of view because of this cloud cover, and 3, I still have to walk like 4 miles back to Hathersage today in this weather. So I think I'm not gonna add another like 2.5 miles to that of being in this rain. I think I'm gonna go back to the village, find a dry place, have some lunch, and then maybe start making my way back to Hathersage and just kind of see what the day brings. Apparently, this has been a water supply since the 1500s. I mean, I wouldn't drink this right now, but I'm sure they kept it cleaner back in the day. At least I hope so. That's kind of cool. It's said to probably be the first public water supply in the country. Okay, we are back at the museum and we're gonna go up this hill and start walking back to Hathersage. So it's supposed to be, from what I can tell, probably about 4-ish miles, which I'm thinking it's a little after 12. It's 12:30. So hopefully that'll be a good amount of time to get me back by 4 so I can grab my bag and get on the train. So I'm climbing out of the valley. You can see down there is Eyam. I'm climbing this giant hill, and then most of the way, the rest of the way after this is mostly down, but this big hill, it's no joke. I saw almost everything that I wanted to see in Eyam. There's one thing that I didn't get to see, the boundary stones, which were during the plague. They had these big stones kind of on the boundary of the town because they quarantined themselves. There's these little like grooves, and what they would do is when they were trying to like buy things like supplies from neighboring villages, they would have the people selling them drop the stuff off at the boundary stone, and they would leave money in those little grooves that they'd fill with vinegar. So they didn't really understand germs or how the plague was transmitted, but they understood that vinegar was a cleaning agent and that people who were touching the same things tended to get the plague. So it was sort of a cause and effect, like, we're gonna clean the money before we give it to somebody outside the village, which was kind of a cool thing, you know, like early hand sanitizer and all of that. But that was on that big popsicle hike. And like I said, I wasn't gonna walk an extra like 2.5 miles just to see that. So here we are, we're hiking out the opposite direction. But it's still a cool thing to think about, and that like even back then, before they understood what like bacteria was, they were understanding that like, you know, there was this cause and effect that was happening with sickness. So too bad people aren't better about that today, just mass population. So down through that overgrown grass is apparently a large waterfall, which I kind of wanted to go see, but I don't really want to walk through that grass because it's gonna get my leggings super wet, which is then gonna get my shoes super wet. So I'm trying to avoid that as much as we can. cow goats. They're goats, but they're spotty like some dairy cows are. This one's just like staring at me. It's a literal black sheep. Hey guys, what's up? Look, more black sheep. There must be some sort of genetic something in this herd that makes that happen more than it wouldn't otherwise. So apparently this is Sir William Hill, and it's one of the taller points in this area. That's why they put their little radio tower at the top there. Y'all, we're going from sheep grazing pasture to the moors. Let's go. You know, with Kate Bush making her kind of popularity reemergence happening right now thanks to that show Stranger Things, I almost feel like I should be listening to the song that I know Kate Bush from, the classic Wuthering Heights, which takes me back to freshman year of college. But does this not feel like that's what that story was about? Like, this is the area. I don't know if this is the area, but you know what I mean? Like, this could be what we're talking about when we talk about Mars. Very pretty. I'm here when the purple flowers are blooming, which is really cool. So I do have to kind of look where I'm going though, because this path that I'm on, it kind of looks like a riverbed because it's been so wet lately. So, you know, it's a little bit treacherous if I'm trying to keep my feet dry, to be frank. I'm not quite sure what that is, but it almost looks like a ring of some sort made of stone. Interesting. There's a ton of these little like bowl depressions up here. And some of them are kind of filled in, but you can kind of see, like, there's one right there. There's one over here. I sort of feel like these would not be naturally occurring, but y'all, look at this 360. I'm gonna try and go not too fast. So that's the direction I came from. Imagine with the sheeps and things. That cloud is moving in though, so it's kind of hard to see, I know. Amazing how you can see the plant life change so quickly. Like, you have that, like, whatever that stuff is that's in the moors, and then as soon as you drop down off that hill, there's like this more of this grassy stuff mixed in, and then it further down just becomes the grassy stuff. Really interesting. Y'all, the ferns are haunting me. Like, seriously? Well, I made it through that section of ferns. Unfortunately, it looks like I have another section coming up. So far my feet I think are not soaked, but we'll see how this goes. There's some sort of ruined structure down there. It's an old farmhouse. I kind of see the walls. It was looking quite disrepair as well. And I went around the corner and I'm now in the woods with the bugs. So I'm gonna go. Well, I don't have to do that stream crossing, so excitement. That bridge has clearly seen better days. I do get to go into these pine woods. Hopefully the bugs are a little better. And by better, I mean less annoying. I think that's the town of Leadmill in the distance, which is where I kind of deviate from this path and start walking along the road, because Hathersage is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from it, and it's the easiest way to get there. So I'm almost done with this nature walking bit for the day. At least I think I am. We'll see how long it takes me to get from here to there. I think those are pheasant. Those birds. Okay, so it's all road walking from here, I think, along that road, and then I'm pretty sure that's Hathersage over there. So, not too far. So here's a question. Is it a cutlery factory museum? Or a cutlery factory and separately there is a museum? Real questions. So on the first day that I was here, that river walk that I did, this is the river, just a lot closer to Hathersage. Okay, so this sign's pointing to Country Shop Cafe, open daily. Brownie sale. I have even more questions about this. Is it like fancy cutlery? Made it to the city limits! Hello from the train station. So I'm just waiting for my train to get to Hathersage, and then I will take it to Edale. Then I have like a 1.7 walk with all of my stuff, and the nearest little grocery shop in Edale is back at the train station, so it's a mile, 1.7 miles away from where I'm staying. So I decided to get groceries here, which means I have all my groceries too. So my what was once about 40 pounds of combined weight is probably closer to 45, if not a little more than that now, because so many of the products are like glass, just because that's what they do here. So it's gonna be an interesting adventure to get all that stuff almost 2 miles carrying it. So wish me luck. I have my cherry Coke. Well, I made it to Edale. Now I have to walk 1.7 miles. On a nice day, this is what it would look like. Looking to the south. And we're off. Road walking. Fun. Well, I'm doing it. Probably about halfway there. Not dying yet. Haven't had to take a break, so good job for me. So far it's been flat or a little downhill, which makes me a little nervous about going the other direction when I leave. So we'll see what happens as I continue on. I've never been happier to see a sign telling me to go walk up a hill. So close. So I made it. Oh my gosh. So like the last one, very simple. I have a bunk bed this time, not that I need both of them. And a little sink and a little skylight that I can hopefully open. Yeah, that's about it. Great news, my skylight.